Deep in the mountains of Colombia, there's this incredible valley where an entire civilization left behind hundreds of massive stone statues and then just vanished. Today, we're going to try and unravel the enigma of this place. So let's get into it.
Right. Let's start with this. Just look at it. This one's called the W, or the double I. It's one of the most famous figures from this lost world, and it's not alone. There are hundreds of statues just like it, each one like a stone guardian holding on to some ancient secret.
And that, right there, is the big question, isn't it? For nearly 2,000 years, these silent figures have been watching over this valley. But here's the thing, they didn't leave behind any written records. So who in the world were the people who carved them? And what beliefs were so powerful that they dedicated everything to creating this monumental landscape?
Okay, so to even begin to answer that, we first have to get a feel for the place itself. You know, this isn't just a few statues in a glass case somewhere. We're talking about an entire landscape. So let's zoom in and get a sense of the sheer scale of where these sentinels were found.
And I'm not exaggerating the scale here. UNESCO itself calls the San Agustín Archaeological Park the world's largest necropolis. A necropolis is a city of the dead. Just think about that for a second. That means this was a culture that was profoundly focused on the afterlife, a culture that poured immense energy into protecting their dead. We're talking about a site of major global importance.
So where are we? We're down here in the Huila Department of southern Colombia. It's tucked away in the foothills, right where the massive Andes mountains start to climb. It's a pretty remote and rugged place, which, honestly, is probably why these secrets stayed hidden for so long. And when I say it's a huge site, I mean it. The monuments, the burial mounds, they're not all in one spot. They are scattered across more than 50 square kilometers. That's all on these plateaus that overlook the canyon of the Magdalena River, which is the most important river in all of Colombia.
So just how many statues are we talking about here? Well, so far, they've found over 500. Let that sink in. More than 500 unique, hand-carved statues, all made from these enormous blocks of stone. It's absolutely mind-boggling.
So who were these incredible builders? Well, we know them simply as the San Agustín culture. We know they thrived here for about 800 years, between the 1st and 8th centuries, and then they just disappeared. They left behind these stone carvings as pretty much the only evidence they were ever here, the only clue to who they were and what they believed.
All right, so if these statues are the only clues we've got, what kind of story do they actually tell? Let's get a closer look and try to decode these whispers from the past. Let's see what the stone itself can tell us about the people who carved it.
As you look at the statues, you start to see two main styles pretty quickly. On the one hand, you have figures that are obviously human-like, what we'd call anthropomorphic. But right next to them, you find these incredible zoomorphic figures, these creatures that are part human, part animal.
The leading theory is that these statues were guardians for the dead, placed to protect the spirits of important people buried in these large mounds. And the animals they chose weren't random either. You see these powerful creatures like jaguars, crocodiles, and bats, all seen as spiritual protectors. This mix of human and animal suggests they had this worldview where the spirit world and our world were deeply connected. We even think some statues might be their solar and lunar gods, which gives us a tiny peek into their entire cosmology. And the scale of their work is it's staggering. The tallest statue they found so far is 7 meters tall. That's over 23 feet. Can you imagine carving that out of a single block of volcanic rock using nothing but primitive tools? Just incredible.
And this photo, this really shows you what it was all about. You can see the statues right there, standing guard at a tomb, exactly where they were supposed to be. They weren't just art to be looked at, they were a functional part of a sacred ritual landscape. But there's a really cool twist to how they used to look. So it turns out, these statues weren't always the solemn gray stone that we see today. No way. Archaeologists have found tiny traces of pigment on some of them, and it reveals that they used to be painted in these vibrant, brilliant colors. We're talking yellows, reds, blacks, and whites. Just try to picture what this valley must have looked like, alive with hundreds of brightly colored giants.
So if this incredible world was hidden away for centuries, how did the rest of us even find out about it? What's the story of its rediscovery?
Well, the story of its modern rediscovery really comes down to two key people. First, way back in 1756, a Spanish monk named Fray Juan de Santa Gertrudis just kind of stumbled upon the statues and wrote about them. But it took a long time, all the way until 1913, for a German ethnologist named Konrad Preuss to show up and lead the first real scientific dig at the site. But Price's expedition also kicks off a whole new and frankly very complicated chapter in the life of these statues, a chapter that's actually still being written today.
Okay, so here's what happened. During his work in 1913, Proust took 21 of the smaller statues with him. By 1919, they ended up in the Ethnological Museum of Berlin, in Germany. And for over 100 years, that's where they stayed. But then, in 2022, the story took a huge turn. The Colombian government officially announced that it would start the process to get them back, arguing that these vital pieces of their history belong in their homeland.
And that really brings us back to the biggest mystery of all. As amazing as these 500-plus statues are, the craziest part is that most of this huge 50-square-kilometer site has never been excavated. It just makes you wonder, what else is still under the ground? What other tombs, what other giant statues, what other secrets are just waiting there ready to completely change the story all over again?